We are Wait, is that how I start?
I think
No,
so.
I say welcome. I say, okay.
You got this.
And welcome to Read the Room podcast, everybody. I'm Chandler.
And I'm Alyssa, and this is the podcast about books, relationships, and the relationships in books.
And today we are starting on our Emily Henry arc. We're going to cover all 4 of her books, not in this episode. This episode is about the first one that she released, which was Beach Read, which is very beachy, at least as far as the cover goes. Not so much as far as the actual story goes.
It's a lie.
Yeah, I feel like it was a bit of a
You can do
catfishing. Yeah, a bit of catfishing on Emily Henry's part to put that on out. And everyone's like, oh, what a great book to bring to the beach. And little do they know it's about sad writers in a rainy place.
Yeah. Before we get into that, what are you reading right now? Or tell me about a book.
I'm not really
you wanna talk
reading
about.
anything right now. I'm currently in between books, and there are just so many books that you're shoving and that you've given me.
Do you have books at your house?
Oh, yeah.
From me? What books do you have?
Romantic comedy by...
I've been looking for that.
The woman's name that sounds like a man.
Curtis Sittenfeld.
Yes.
Oh, that's a great
You've been looking for that? You gave it to me months ago.
I was like, where is this freaking book?
Yeah.
Because usually people read them fast.
True.
Not this guy.
Well, you gave me a stack of, I think, like 7 books all in one go.
It's for
and
the podcast,
I brought
Jen.
2 of them back, which are right in front of us here.
Oh, yeah, the Emily Henrys.
So I'm working my way through, but
You're doing great.
I also get a lot of book suggestions or lens from other bookish
Whatever.
friends of mine.
Are they making podcasts with you?
No, they're not yet.
Okay.
I actually have like so many secret book podcasts. Anyway, so I will talk about Wool by Hugh Howey, which I read a few months ago, which is a story about people living in an underground silo. And it's been generations of the world basically destroying itself, as we're all worried that it will do, probably through nuclear war and whatnot. And all these people living underground, that's all the life that they've known. They don't know what's on the outside. But whenever anyone does anything really bad, or even says that they want to go outside, which is like a very punishable offense, they're sent outside in these suits, and everyone gets to watch them on the cameras as they wander away and then eventually succumb to just the terrible environment out there. But before they do, their job is to clean the cameras with wool pads. So that's why it's called Wool.
Wait, what is this a recent release or like an older one?
I don't think it's very recent.
Because
no.
I was gonna say that's like part of Lost's plot, the TV show.
Oh yeah,
I was like, this is sounding wildly familiar.
Desmond!
Yeah.
4, 8, 13.
Yeah, I can't
remember the numbers.
But I was like, you were saying it, and I was like, this is a direct copy, but it could be the other way too.
It's like a huge silo though. It's not like just Desmond's little area.
I mean, he was with somebody else.
Well, yeah,
for a little bit.
But no, they've got like 150 levels, and it takes like 3 days to walk to the very bottom, kind of a thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so would recommend. I think I gave it about 4.5 stars. And apparently it's the start of a series, which I didn't realize when I was reading it. So now I'm just like, here's another series that I've unknowingly started.
Do you prefer series or standalone?
I prefer it. I know that we talked about this in Fourth Wing. I prefer it when the first in a book could be its own book, like its own standalone, and then it's just so good that we can't. And like there's enough world building there. There's enough excitement there that it can lead into more story.
I guess so. As long as the other stories are as good as the first, like Harry Potter.
Yes.
Or better.
Quick, favorite, and we'll have a Harry Potter episode.
We have to.
We could knock that out so quick, but what's your favorite Harry Potter book?
I honestly think it's probably Goblet of Fire for me. My least favorite is Chamber of Secrets, and I will die on that hill. People love it. Yeah. I hated it. Fair. I mean, I didn't hate it. I still gave it 5 stars. I just out of the other ones.
Goblet of Fire, best book.
What about you?
Favorite movie?
Probably Deathly Hallows Part 2. Just because it's like the most I don't know if that's true. It's definitely not Order of the Phoenix movie or Deathly Hallows Part 1. Those ones are like builder ones. So they weren't great. I mean, they were still, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm very passionate about Harry Potter.
Works that only build towards other things.
Whatever. What about you? What's your favorite Harry Potter book?
My favorite movie is Prisoner of Azkaban, because things get dark and gritty.
You would be a serious kind of guy.
Well, yeah, and as we're about to
Marauders.
talk about all the Emily Henry novels. And then I think for my favorite book, it's got to just be Deathly Hallows because it was so exciting. It was such an event when that came out, and
it was.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry to sidetrack the conversation.
No,
I shouldn't just had Harry Potter be the book that I talked about.
I wish we were talking about Harry Potter right now. We can though in the future, no problem. Okay. Wool sounds awesome though. I will.
But also, fuck J.K. Rowling.
True. I want to read Wool now. For my book that I'm reading right now, since you asked, I'm not actually reading it right now. It's just a book that I have read. I actually reread it not too long ago. It's called Every Summer After by Carly Fortune, and I really want to talk about her 2 books on the podcast eventually too, because she's a Canadian author. She's from the East Coast. All of her books take place in Canada, but yet they have success not just in Canada. They got really big in the States as well. But Every Summer After is essentially a dual timeline, a contemporary romance about a girl and a guy when they were younger. Her cabin that she went to every summer with her family in Ontario was beside where these 2 boys lived that she grew up with, Charlie and Sam. And
oh no.
Charlie and Sam. And they so they grew up over the years every summer with her coming out, and inevitably has a romance with the younger brother Sam. But it does dual timelines, so it'll say it'll be their cute building romance, and then it'll flip to the future where they don't talk and they don't get along, and you don't know what happens, and that's the whole pivot of the book, trying to figure out what happens. And then it's really devastating when you find out. But it's just such a good book. It's probably one of my favorite contemporary romances. If you haven't read it, I definitely recommend it, especially if you're Canadian. We got to support those Canadian authors. But yeah, Every Summer After by Carly Fortune.
I'm getting that contemporary romance writers really love cabins, and they really love time flashback jumps.
I mean, her second book is literally called Meet Me at the Lake. So
Bodies of Water too. Bodies of Water, we're all for it.
Well, it's Cabin at the Lake. But yeah, I don't know, it works.
Yeah.
It makes sense. We're about to talk about, I think out of 3 of the 4 next books we're about to talk about by Emily Henry, it's a cabin.
Happy Place.
Beach Read.
Small
Town. And then
Book Lovers is Small Town, but they're in a cute little Airbnb kind of thing. I don't think they're near a body of water, though they do go skinny dipping at that creek.
Yeah, whatever, it counts. But then people we meet on vacation, they just travel the world.
So they're near water a lot.
Yeah.
They go to beaches.
It feels like the same energy between those 3 books.
Yeah. We love cabins. We love water.
Sure do.
And we love time jumps, baby.
It's funny too, because the people we meet on vacation, the only one out of those books that isn't that sort of style is everybody's least favorite, online, which I don't get.
Wait, what's your favorite? Okay, I guess we should talk just Emily Henry in general.
Should we? Yeah. Do you know anything about Emily Henry?
No. Well, I've read.
Shoot.
Oh no.
She's a woman and her name is Emily. She's written 4 books.
Hey, I wonder if her actual name is Emily Henry, or if that's the pen name. Because as a Chandler Walter, I do love a name with 2 first names.
She's very pretty.
All right, Emily Henry is the #1 New York Times best-selling author of Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation, and then also Happy Place and Book Lovers. She writes stories about love and family for both teens and adults. She studied creative writing at Hope College and the New York Center for Arts and Media Studies, and now spends most of her time in Cincinnati, Ohio, and the part of Kentucky just beneath it. So that's Emily Henry for you, folks.
Yeah, we clearly knew a lot.
And
she's super. She looks really cool.
When
I can tell. I judge a book by its cover.
I judge an author by their physical appearance.
By their face.
Yes. When did the first one come out? What are we talking about here? We're talking about
Beach Read.
Oh, she's also written some YA. I remember reading this. I did a little bit of
this came out in 2020?
Research. Yeah,
no
man,
way.
she's quite recent.
So
for
she
these
published
ones.
1 a year since 2020.
Yeah, she's been crushing them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I remember reading that for this one, she was actually having, what do you know, a bit of writer's block as she wrote this book.
Shocking.
And it was after she had written some YA novels. So let me find those ones.
And while you do that, do you want me to read the synopsis?
Yes,
of this one?
Please do.
So Beach Read is Augustus Everett is an acclaimed author of literary fiction. January Andrews writes best-selling romance. When she pens a happily ever after, he kills off his entire cast. They're polar opposites. In fact, the only thing they have in common is that for the next 3 months, they're living in neighboring beach houses, broke and bogged down with writer's block. Then one hazy evening, one thing leads to another, and they strike a deal designed to force them out of their creative ruts. Augustus will spend the summer writing something happy, and January will pen the next great American novel. She'll take him on field trips worthy of any rom-com montage, and he'll take her to interview surviving members of a backwoods death cult, obviously. Everyone will finish a book, and no one will fall in love. Really.
Really?
But like also the cover, Beach Read, it's insane how much of a mislead this is. And the name. I remember because this was the first one I read. Sorry, I think it was the second. But I was like, I think I literally took it on vacation with me. I was like, the perfect vacation read. And then it was like so depressing.
That's how she gets you.
I was like, what the hell?
I was about to describe the cover to our listeners at home who might not be watching us. You can find us on YouTube as well. Read the Room on YouTube, everybody.
Yep.
And then see us talk about books and look at covers that don't have to be described. But I also don't think I have to describe it because anyone who's listening to this has read the book.
And if they haven't, we're about to spoil
it. Get out of here. We don't want you here.
We're talking about a book. We'll jump in right away. Yeah, then they die.
We are gatekeeping these books. Mm-hmm. And at the gate, we're like, have you read the book? All right, come on in. If you haven't, get out.
Literally.
Okay, so.
Great book. Actually, that's not true. I said that.
What did you rate it then? 5 stars?
I think I actually gave it 4 stars.
Whoa.
I know.
So harsh of you, Alyssa.
Because I liked them all, don't get me wrong, but I really, really liked People We Meet on Vacation and Happy Place. And I liked Book Lovers as well, but Beach Read was my bottom of the barrel, which according to TikTok is not the common consensus.
What is the common consensus?
They always say Beach Read is their favorite, and then People We Meet on Vacation is our least favorite.
Huh.
So that's what I've seen across the board.
I think I like them the exact same amount of 3.5 stars ish. Maybe
all
4.
All 4? I thought you really liked Happy Place.
For those 2.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Happy Place was a bit better, but let's get into Beach Read. Fair.
Did you like Book Lovers?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah. I think that was the first one I read.
Okay.
And that was my first ever fully proper contemporary romance.
I truly think that they get better as she writes. I mean, honestly,
that makes sense, right?
I guess so. But sorry. Cool. So what did you rate Beach Read again? 3.5?
Either 3.5 or 4.
Yeah. That's what I was at. It's not that I disliked it. I still really liked it, and I would recommend people read it. It's just it wasn't my favorite.
I mean, I rank with my star system. It's if it's over 2.5, if it's over 50%, that means I liked it.
Yeah.
So a 3 star is okay, I got to the end of this book. I'm not sad I read it, but yeah.
Fair. What did you think of January? She seems pretty broken. She just lost her dad, and she's suffering from writer's block at the beginning of the book, which we just read. Emily Henry also was struggling at this book.
Actually, yeah. Quick aside. We've been going on so many asides.
Sorry, yeah.
But Emily Henry had a debut young adult novel, The Love That Split the World, that was published on January 2016.
Literally never heard of it.
After writing several young adult novels, Henry's first adult romance novel, Beach Read, was published in 2020 to widespread success. Wow. Yeah, even on her Wikipedia, when it says notable works, it doesn't include her first, YA novel. So I
Interesting.
In fact, The Love That Split the World doesn't have a clickable hyperlink on Wikipedia.
Cool.
So, I mean, good for her for, pivoting and being all right, heading into adult romance and then just knocking them out one after the other. 4 in, 3 years, which is pretty impressive for someone who started with writer's block and then deciding to write about someone with writer's block. And honestly, I'm not, as we've mentioned in the past, I'm not a big fan of author self-inserts. Mm-hmm. Writer self-inserts in general, when it comes to you see so many journalist protagonists or writer protagonists, and I get write what you know. We've probably had this discussion before, honestly, but I don't know. Come up with something.
I just think people can't help but inserting themselves in their protagonist.
I guess I did notice that in Sally Rooney's novels, like the not normal people, but I think conversations.
Why? Which character?
Or was it the other? Like one of the main characters was
what is it called?
Was a novelist.
What's the third book by her? What's it called? It's not Where'd You Go, Burn It. It was
something World. Hello World.
No.
Beautiful World.
Beautiful World. Where are you?
Where
or something.
You?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's that one. But one of them has a novelist protagonist that's like waning poetic about the fact that her life is different now because she's a successful novelist.
Right.
Like, I see you, Sally.
Yeah, it was the third one then. Yeah.
Oh, and she... Okay, not to talk too much about Sally Rooney's book. Well, we're talking about Emily Henry.
Always talked about Sally Rooney.
Yeah, we need to talk about Sally Rooney. But... one of the things was that that she wrote from that perspective was that once you become a successful novelist, all of the life experience that you have to pull from has kind of ended because you can't really pull from the life of a successful novelist. You have to work with everything that came before that as like a normal person.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it always, I think that's why there are so many author self-inserts, because there's only so much life experience that one can have before living the life of a novelist.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that brings us to January.
Yeah,
Who was in the same rut that apparently Emily Henry was in.
Yeah. Did you like her, though, your first impression?
She was okay. She was fine. Like, I don't think there were very many things that really stuck out to me as like,
she was just sad. Like, she seemed really sad to me, and I was like, oh, that's depressing.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in, and especially like putting yourself in just like a very lonely position where it's like I understand that there's a lot of romanticism to I'm gonna go live in a cabin,
isolation,
by a lake by myself and write a book. And I've, don't get me wrong, I've romanticized the idea of that life before. And
they did that on purpose, like the isolation and then the forced proximity with Gus being right next door. Like that is like an ultimate romance trope. It's
the boy next door trope, but like kind of shifted a little bit. They're doing the goddamn Taylor Swift music video thing by like writing notes and showing them in the window. You're like, but I'm like, come on.
I think it's cute. I love it.
I guess.
And I love that Gus versus January. It's kind of funny because January is really like down in the dumps, but she's still technically to Gus, she's still the sunshine to grumpy vibe. Like when you look at those characters, because Gus is like the one who writes the like great American novel, but he's interviewing cult people. Like his is so dark, and she's like the romance writer essentially. They're very opposites in that way, and they knew each other when they were in college too. I think we should know that.
And that's funny as well, because I know that like it's the enemies to lovers trope, right?
Yeah,
they're not enemies. She considers him her nemesis from him like giving constructive criticism to one of her short stories.
But she's the protagonist, so you're seeing it as enemies. Because you're seeing it through her. But yes, you find out later it's not like that. From his
perspective, he's just like, hey, yeah, I remember you from
Yeah, and what he did, he like over-criticized her work in college, and he like did that, but he thought it was because she was the only one worthy of his time. Like he liked her, and then she was like, fuck this guy. Yeah. Like, this guy sucks.
And then they like made out one time at a college party. Yeah. But like, who doesn't make out with whoever at a college party?
Story of your life. Not everyone.
Not that
just
I really
you.
spent much time at college parties. Let's be real.
No, you just in everyday life. I'm so mean.
No longer.
Pass it on,
no
everyone.
Longer.
But yeah, I think that was really interesting. I liked both of them, but like they weren't over the top likable characters, which is funny. Like maybe it was just that I didn't relate to either of them. I don't know what it was, but compared to some of the characters in Emily Henry's other books, my immediate impression of them, I wasn't like, oh my god, love them.
Well, I think it's also because they're hard people to relate to given their life circumstances. They're both just like shut away in their own houses that they own.
Yeah.
By a lake, and like their job is to write, which is a job, but it's not one that most people can relate to very easily, and it's not the kind of romance either that a lot of people can really relate to, where the proximity is just right there, and we have this somewhat of a past together, and
there's no rush. We're gonna be here for months.
Yeah,
like it's so slow. Like I feel like maybe that's what annoyed me with the book, is there was no rush and no communication. Like, you didn't understand why Gus didn't like her, but it was because he did like her, but he couldn't communicate that, which is the story of every contemporary romance.
There can't be proper, healthy communication in a contemporary romance, or else the story's over in the first few chapters.
It's insane. And so, like, he doesn't communicate that. He doesn't communicate that he has an ex-wife. So she's like, so when, like, things start to get steamy between them, she's like, what is with this guy? Like, why every time he gets close, he backs off? And then you're like, oh, then you find out he was married. And then, like, for January, you slowly, like, it's almost every relationship with her, because even so she finds out her dad cheats on her mom, shattering this illusion of her having a perfect family. And even that chick, I think her name was Sonia, his dad's mistress, is trying so hard the whole book to talk to her, and she's like, no. And I'm like, just fucking talk. Like, I just want to know. Like, and she, like, would avoid. Those characters could not communicate to save their lives. It was driving me nuts.
Which is funny, because they're all writers.
That is funny.
Their job is communicating. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it did feel like, here's this, like, very convenient setup where we have to go on cute little dates every weekend.
Yeah.
But they're not dates. They're just, like, research assignments.
And it's always like, I hate him, but he's so hot. Like, the way it's written, I'm like, okay.
It's like, you're a 30-year-old adult. Just, like, go...
They just couldn't talk about it. I mean, relatable on my life, but still.
Oh, man. Shoot your goddamn shot, everybody.
But yeah, slow burn for me, I was just, I like it in some books, but for this book, I was just like, bleh. Like, compared to the other books, it wasn't. I wish it, anyways.
Well, I feel like slow burns usually happen around lives as they happen, but these lives didn't really feel like there was much going on there.
No.
Like, yeah, they went on cute little excursions. And
they hung out, like, every day.
Yeah.
In some way or another of talking through paper.
But never at the fucking beach, Emily. Never at the goddamn beach.
Literally.
Except that one time, to be fair.
What did you think about January's relationship with her father pre his death? Like, I thought it was so sweet that she obviously, like, she wrote romance books. She loved her parents' relationship. She loved her relationship with her dad. It was all really positive. And then he dies, and she finds out this whole other side. What did you think of that whole storyline? Oh, and then she has writer's block. Like, were those tied together?
I mean, they might have been. I mean, they definitely were, actually. I think that she mentioned that so much of her rom-comming ability, contemporary romancing
ability,
comes from using her parents' beautiful love story as the template for these stories that she's writing.
Yeah.
And then that shatters.
Oh, also her boyfriend of 6 years remembered Jacques or Jack, or how would you say that? Jacques. Is it Jacques?
I think so.
I assume it's spelt French, so it's got to be Jacques.
Yeah, and French people don't like pronouncing their S's, so...
Yeah. So
Jacques. Sorry, French people.
But yeah, no, because he breaks up with her after 6 years, and she just lost her father, found out he cheated, her boyfriend broke up with her, or was it her fiance? I can't remember if they were engaged, but
I'm going to guess they were engaged.
Yeah, he left her homeless, and then all of this, and then all of a sudden she can't write, and her brand is contemporary romance.
Okay, did he leave her homeless, though? Like,
yeah, because he took the house. It was his house or something.
Oh, and then that does happen in breakups where it's like, well, I mean,
because that's how she ended up at the beach house, just kidding, on the lake house that her dad had shared with his mistress. It's just like so many elements, and then her not being able to write, and I was like, makes sense. She no longer believes in love at this point.
Yeah. Now Crazy. It's time to write about cults.
I did kind of... No, she doesn't.
I know.
But I kind of liked that it... I mean, as much as I don't like when people write about writer's block, I don't know why.
Let's write about a writer who's writing about writer's block, who's writing about a writer that doesn't have writer's block.
Imagine. There's a lot of discussion about the merits of women's fiction.
Yes.
And so Gus... So the way that January views herself compared to Gus is, I think, a bit of internalized misogyny, is that she thinks he's always after her and he's judging her and he doesn't think she's good. Whereas Gus, you find out later, he totally thought she was good. He loved her books. He's read all of them. And etc., etc.
She hadn't read his books.
Yeah,
I mean, she read the one. I think that she
Oh.
hadn't read the other one.
Oh, fair. I also don't read books written by men, so relatable.
Fair.
But anyways, there's like a quote in the book. I'm not going to try to find it and say it, but it's something like, if the Jessicas in a book were Johns, then it could be the next great American novel. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was really interesting because that's really true. Like, I love reading contemporary romance, and I love reading books about relationships, and a lot of times that puts us in a category where we're judged for reading those, but some of them are absolutely incredible. And then I'll read books by men trying to do the same thing, and I'm like, if only like this was revert, it would be so much more popular.
Wait, like the Nicholas Sparks stuff, or
I mean
like the contemporary romances written by men, or
just like any, I don't even know, like I shouldn't have gone on this hill if I can't think of anything. I mean, Nicholas Sparks, that is a good point, because his are so predictable. And like, put Nicholas Spark. I mean, they're so fucking popular.
But that's not from like a male perspective, right?
No,
it's like his
he's
books
writing
are still,
as a woman.
Yeah.
And also, they're vastly consumed only by women, essentially, for the most part, his too. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just think of like look at like Catcher in the Rye, or like Great Gatsby, or these are terrible examples, but those are the great American classics. And I'm not saying that the contemporary romance I read is better, but I do think that it would be taken more seriously should it be a male protagonist. I don't know. I just think sometimes the stories.
Well, I'm definitely an advocate for contemporary romance novels being taken more seriously, not just written off as like chick lit.
Also, men should definitely read them. It's like a guidebook.
Sit here, discussing with you about contemporary romances. I'm very much like pro contemporary romance.
But you're rare.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I think that this comes from a place of like the difference between contemporary romance novels and, I guess, just like general fiction. It's not that general fiction doesn't have female protagonists or amazing female authors. I point to, say, Celeste Ng has written some amazing books with female protagonists that aren't that are just existing in fiction. There's like family drama.
But are they as popular as some fiction books written by men?
Probably not, and that sucks.
That's what I mean.
But I don't.
Those are great books.
I think that like the conversation there of like female protagonist versus male protagonist, and like if you just swap them, that's a different one than fiction versus contemporary romance, because contemporary romance is its own genre, and I think that it gets a lot of flack, sure, because of misogyny, but also because of predictability and
not all of them.
We just started this by talking about cabins and time jumps and bodies of water.
Yeah, but not these 4 books, but there's other ones that aren't as predictable.
Please give me... I would love to read the contemporary romances that, kind of
romantic
subvert
comedy
expectations. I will. Yes, I will definitely read that.
House?
It's sitting at my house. I will read it.
Still pretty predictable.
See, that's the thing, right? Like it's a bit of a...
There is a formula.
There's a formula. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for.
Whereas fiction is much more like ephemeral. It's like free for all. You can do anything.
And when we're talking about beach read, and when we're talking about formulas for contemporary romance, and about August... Okay, first... Their names kill me.
Augustus and January.
It's August and January.
Oh my god, I didn't even notice that. I'm dead.
Polar opposites. But the fact that he hates happy endings. And I think that more comes from a place of like, I would guess that Emily Henry has heard a lot of discourse around happy endings in contemporary romances, and that is something that I don't really enjoy the prologues.
Yeah.
Or epilogues. Which one? Yeah, the epilogue. Yeah. I don't really enjoy the epilogues.
Same.
Where it's like, 9 months later, and now
they're
like
engaged.
he's going down on one knee,
and they have their perfect baby on the way.
I was Beach Read wasn't the first Emily Henry I read, so I know that she has those epilogues where it's like everything worked out. But this one talks so much about happy endings, and it was talking about how contemporary romance can kind of not follow that formula and blah blah blah. So I was expecting. Well, I wasn't expecting, but I was kind of hoping, like, maybe this one she doesn't do it. Maybe this one she ends it right at that moment, and we're left to wonder what happens.
Yeah.
Like is the case in most fiction, right? Most fiction doesn't have, like, an epilogue, like, here's a year later, and don't worry, everything worked out fine.
Yeah.
But these ones do, and this one specifically did, and I was just a little sad that it did. I feel like the main readership of contemporary romances would be like, "Oh my god, like it didn't have."
Yeah. They would be up in arms. I hear you, and that's the thing is, when they follow a different, formula in any way, it does tend to be really polarized. And these books aren't a great example of like going away from that narrative. But if you look at like Normal People, where it still follows a formula, but it does it differently, and it leans into like not everything being perfect. It shows like the issues with the love interest, and it shows the vulnerabilities, and then people either love it or fucking hate it. Because I would say Normal People is in contemporary romance, right? Or is that more fiction?
Oh, that one's a hard one.
See, but that's the thing, is because it doesn't follow a formula. So is that what makes it contemporary romance then?
But it's because it's about a romance. Here's the thing.
There's a lot of sex in it too, so it's confusing.
It has sex, it has romance, but it doesn't follow the formula. So if it doesn't follow the formula, then it can't fall into contemporary romance. And I think that's where, Augustus or whatever other critique of contemporary romance books or the genre as a whole is, and like why those don't really, you're not going to see them winning like the prize, like big
Pulitzer.
Fiction
is
prizes.
Pulitzer?
Yeah. Like, yes, I'm sure that contemporary romance genre has its own prizes, but because as soon as you deviate from the formula too much, you fall outside of contemporary romance. It's like kind of necessary.
But then it's taken more serious too, it seems. I don't know. I just find that like men tend to look down on that. Like,
oh, they definitely do.
Like, especially with me on like dating apps being like, well, what do you like to read? I'm never going to be like Beach Read by Emily Henry. I will never respond with that. I'll respond with something that's taken more serious as a society, because I don't want to embarrass myself in front of that person. So like, it's like a funny thing that you do, and it's so silly.
Also, Normal People Salary Rating on Wikipedia, it says genre novel brackets romance.
Interesting. See, it's a bit tricky, that one.
Yeah, it's kind of all over the place.
I think but it's so funny because if men actually read these books, because this is what women want through the female it's like literally a guidebook of what women are looking for, because obviously they like these books and they like the storyline, but they also fall really hard for the male protagonist. Like if you look at even like romantasy, look at A Court of Thorns and Roses, the main guy in that, I'm not going to spoil it because it is a spoiler if I say the name, but the one guy that you really love as a reader, if a guy actually read that and like understood what girls were looking like, it's so funny. It's like literally like a manual being like, here you go. I don't know. Anyways, that's just my thought.
One of the characteristics I liked a lot about Gus was it just that he was constantly slouching or like leaning on things? Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, it was like, oh, like the weight of the world is just like too much for him. He constantly needs like support.
Philosophical. Is that what that would be?
It's not even like philosophical. He's just like the way he stands, just like.
But it sounds deep because he is the deep one.
And I did like that was just like a little out of the normal for a usual like contemporary romance protagonist.
I also thought
love interest more.
It was very like. Maybe I'm just being an asshole, but the fact that Gus was so cynical and he was so like dark and like broody, and his books reflected that, but yet January was the uppy one whose mom died of cancer, dad was cheating on his mom, shattered the whole life, the mom's alive. The mom died from cancer. The mom had cancer and then survived. Did she? Sorry, I've read like 10 books since this. Yeah. My bad. But you know what I mean? Like she's had her partner left her, all this stuff. Yes, he had an ex-fiance. And he worked at a cemetery for a while. So life is bad. Death's scary. So they get engaged at the end. Do you think they're going to work out? No, I don't think they will. I think you just want to say that. I think they're great together. I don't think they will. I don't know. It's second chance romance. That's another trope of this one, because they had met in college and they had a thing for each other, but also were enemies. I just like... Tell me how you feel. I feel like your rating is going down as we do this. Kind of is. Well, okay, yes, sure, they had a nice little slow burn over was it the summer or like, I don't know, whenever they were there. And... learned to get to know each other and love each other and went on cute little dates and all that. But at the same time, like, he's going through a divorce currently. Mm-hmm. And yes, his ex-wife, who
cheating on him with his best friend.
Oh yeah, it was best friend.
Best man.
Yeah.
Oh God.
It was his ex-wife. It wasn't his ex-fiance. It was his ex-wife because they got married.
Yeah,
so
they
his best
actually
friend.
were married, and then
sorry.
she cheated on him with his best man.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a lot to fucking deal with.
He didn't actually tell. I just remember he didn't actually tell January about it. It was Pete. It was his aunt that owns the bookstore that actually told January that he was divorced, and she was like, "What?" Like literally, he could not communicate. Shocking that Augustus couldn't communicate.
Yep.
Oh, that's so funny. I really loved Pete, though. I think Pete was one of my favorite. Emily Henry's secondary characters are bomb, in my opinion. I like the secondary.
Like the quirky older woman who runs a bookstore.
I loved her.
Because there's more than one of those.
I know, but it was so...
4 series of
books. But like
Happy
Happy Place, too. I loved the secondary characters. And in Book Lovers, too, her sister is also so cute. Libby, I think her name was.
Yeah. Well, Happy Place was great because of the cast. Oh, it was for sure.
Good.
But we'll get to that.
Yeah, sorry.
Anyway, I don't believe in love.
Yeah, tell us more about.
They could be together.
Does this feel like our personalities right now? Oh, I hate everything.
I love love. All right, I am optimistic when it comes to love, but I think that's through being healthy in where you are in life and what you're capable of. And I don't know, man, like he just got out of a marriage. He's going through a divorce, and then like she's there, and that's nice. And they build a bit of a friendship first.
How fucking convenient too that she moved in right next door.
Convenient.
Like he's like, I'm going through this hard time, and then his college crush is like, I just moved in next door.
Hello there.
Yeah, like the perfect timing and like. Yeah.
And I get that it's at not the epilogue end, but the end of the actual book. It was where his ex-wife shows up and it's like, hey, take me back, and then he makes the decision to pursue something with January instead, and from that we have to take, he chose January over the ex-wife. This is going to work.
But also doesn't communicate the whole time he's deciding. So January assumes that he's gone back with his ex-wife because he can't say, no, I'm just dealing with this. All's good.
Yep.
Classic.
I don't know. Like, given the difficulties in communication that they had just off the first few months of being around each other and then like being into each other.
Yeah.
I mean, but like that's the thing. Like these aren't. Sorry to say, these aren't real people. Like they're created differently, so you don't really. I understand that like there's some belief that needs to be suspended when it comes to most fiction, really, but especially contemporary romance, and whether or not this will work out. Because what do you know? In the epilogue, it does.
You're right. I don't think it'll work out either.
Although that's just the start of a marriage. I mean, that's the start of a engagement, not even a marriage.
Also, they got engaged real fast if it was then.
It reminds me of watching The Bachelor, where it's like, oh, congrats, hooray, they got engaged at the end, but then the engagement always falls apart, or the marriage, if they do end up getting married, always falls apart.
There's like literally 30 seasons of The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, and there's only like 2 people still married.
There's more than that, because some of them have kids, so it helps to keep them together.
No, but I feel like Bachelor in Paradise is where you have all the relationships from. Actual Bachelor, it's like literally the first one, and then Sean Lowe. Why do I know this? Maybe there's another one.
I always say winning The Bachelor or Bachelorette isn't like getting engaged at the end. It's becoming.
Yeah, literally for money.
Yeah.
Like Nick Viall won so many times at that. I love Nick Viall. Parker was his best friend's name.
Fuck you, Parker.
Yeah, what a shitty guy.
Yeah. Gross. Anyway, I mean, like that's a very easy way for it to get the reader obviously on Gus's side.
Always.
Which I think might need to happen. Like there might need to be a little bit more. Like you have to make a very evil ex-partner of the male love interest because readers of contemporary romance are kind of like, honed in on taking the woman's side in any sort of, relationship issue. Mm-hmm. So it's like, no, like she is definitely bad. It's a best friend cheating.
Like a thing.
Yeah, it's got to be like you can't come back from that.
I've also noticed that in some books, so there are books with cheating tropes in them. For example, there's a Christina Lauren book and a Carly Fortune book where there is cheating tropes. And when I read reviews on Goodreads after, some people will rate the book so shitty just because one of the protagonists has cheated in the past and literally immediately like downgrade it. But for me, I'm like, it doesn't doesn't faze me, but like like it does, but like it doesn't. Like I think people can grow, and I don't think they're the same person, and I think that relationships are not black and white. I think they're gray, and I can see it for like the larger scale of things, but a lot of people can't, and I think that's interesting because like in books like this, to make someone seem more evil, they make them cheat. But if they had have made Gus be the one that cheated on his ex, like I wonder if we would have had like how the reaction would have been. I just think that's interesting.
You know what they say, once a cheater, maybe a cheater again sometime, depending on how well they worked on themselves and grew from, you know, who they were at that point in their life.
I guess so. I mean, you're not wrong, but
yeah, but also, hey, don't cheat.
Agreed. People. I've never cheated. Have you?
Me neither. Let's
Friendship.
Go. The power of friendship.
Woo. Anyways, anything else?
I think that's about it that's all we got for you for Beach Read here.
Okay.
But we will be talking about the rest of the Emily Henry bibliography, not counting her. We should read her young adult novel if we can find it. I don't
even want to. The fact that you couldn't even find a link to it is like a red flag. But she does have a new book coming out soon. It comes out in the next few months.
Christ.
So we will do one in the future. We'll go through them all, and then we'll also do that one eventually when that comes out.
I mean, I do got to hand it to her.
She's
as a writer,
out.
Yeah, like one book a year. I mean, more than one book a year because
it's coming out 2024 early.
Oh, because there have been.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it comes out in like January.
2020, 2021, 2022, 2023 is 4 years.
Let me look it up.
4 years, 4 books. Good for her. And you know what? We'll top that. We'll do 4 books in 4 weeks. But just talking about the book that we didn't write.
When is it coming out? It's called Funny Story. April, so it comes out in April. Yeah, so she does one a year. That's fun.
Well, then maybe we should save these episodes for April.
Don't. I said that before, and you literally were like, no. How dare you?
Well, it saved me from having to read too much for our first season.
You still have a lot more to read. You have to read Iron Flame.
I'm going to make you read a bunch of stuff, too. I'm reading goddamn Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. I'm going to make you read some shit.
I told you I'd read Celeste Ng.
Okay.
And did you read Leanne Moriarty or whatever?
I've read Big Little Lies, but I haven't read anything
I haven't read any of hers, but I have them there. I bought those secondhand because I thought you had read them to make them easier.
Oh.
So I bought them for myself to do this.
Oh, and they look nice. They look...
I don't know.
Well, I like it when they all kind of look...
Match? Those ones don't, though, because she put her fucking title on the one book on the wrong... There's always, like, 1 or 2 that don't match, and, like, one's weirdly green while the rest of them are white. And I'm like, come on. If you're going to do green, just do... Anyways.
Has Emily Henry done a good job of that?
I really love... except for Happy Place. I think we can all agree that Emily Henry releasing Happy Place as a hardcover with no... paperback, so it didn't match any of our sets, was a travesty.
But like, she will release the paperback eventually.
She hasn't. That came out early this year.
Yeah, I think it's usually a year, and then
it makes me so
because they can charge more for a hardcover.
They don't even have those in hardcovers.
Well, that's because she wasn't so big when she released these. They're like, we can release only hardcover, and like the Emily Henry readers.
I mean, I bought it pre-release, but I wasn't happy about it, Chandler.
It wasn't your fucking happy place.
Yeah. No, but for real, that made me so mad when that came out. And then I went on TikTok and everyone was like up in arms about it.
Well, you'll just have to buy the paperback too, so it matches up with the other ones. Anyway.
And you know I will.
Yeah, I know. Jesus Christ. Alyssa was talking about how she just bought Iron Flame and has another Iron Flame coming that's autographed.
But that one's signed. And I bought the Fourth Wing and the Fourth Wing Holiday Edition. So I have 4, and I've bought Audible for both. So I'll have 6 versions of 2 books. Wait, 6 in total between 2 books.
Yep.
That's insane. I'm unhinged.
Yeah.
It's a by
Okay.
And I don't have a job.
Anyway, catch us next week for People We Meet on Vacation.
The fact you had to read it from the book.
By, who's that on? Emily Henry.
Emily Henry.
Yes.
Thank you guys for joining us on this episode of Read the Room. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe. Maybe give us a rate on one of the places where we have the episodes uploaded. So
don't maybe do it. Please do. Definitely do it.
So we're on anywhere where podcasts are available, and also
we
YouTube.
are where podcasts are.
Yeah, so YouTube as well if you want to see us talking, and you get to see the library behind us.
It's a good time, you know. We have props. The props are usually books.
It's my Taylor Swift Eras Tour cup. is in the shot. Anyways, that really helps us out if you can do that, and follow us along on social media as well. We're on TikTok and Instagram.
And our social is at
Let's Read the Room. Yeah, Read the Room was taken, so we went with Let's.
There's so many podcasts called Read the Room.
Yeah, but none of them stand out like ours, because we're great.
Okay, yeah, we are. All right, catch us next week. Bye, everybody.
See you next time. What is it?
We should do this again. Every time we do this. Okay, bye.